Well, hello from Washington, D.C. I'm Kim Churches, CEO of AAUW, and I'm so delighted to be with you today virtually to share some updates about the association that we all love. I'm here at home recording this, and so fair warning in advance, you may hear my daughter, my husband, or one of our two dogs in the background, but that's what sheltering in place is all about. So, how are we all feeling? We have been working from home, sheltering in place to protect ourselves, our loved ones, our friends, and our community members now for about 8 weeks, about 2 months. Who else sort of feels like a superhero during this time? Certainly, these are trying and difficult and definitely unprecedented times, emotionally, right? Health-wise, economically. With all of that uncertainty right now, it's so important for us to have focus and resilience. These are key for us all in moving forward. And in addition, I think for the AAUW national staff, which you'll hear a little bit about today in this presentation, is the ability to pivot and be nimble and flexible in these uncertain times to make sure we can also be relevant to the times we're living in, but also continue to have mission impact. Now, social distancing doesn't mean distancing entirely. Certainly, we can't give each other a hug or get together for lunch or dinner, or even for a terrific substantive program right now around our mission in person. But human connectivity is key right now. So that's things like phone calls, Zoom, Skype and FaceTime, using social media, Google Hangouts, whatever it takes and frequently. AAUW National has quickly moved, once we moved to work from home in a mandatory state, to a lot of programming being available virtually. Also to our members, of course, but also more greatly to the broader communities around the nation. I hope you caught my interview a few weeks ago with NPR's Diane Rehm, and most recently, two of our truly incredible AAUW fellows talking about issues that matter to all of us. All of our virtual programming and webinars are stored on the website at www.aauw.org. So should you miss one of those invitations that come weekly from us, do know that the information will be available to you online at your convenience. Right now, friends, we're witnessing threats against the rights for women and girls. After we've worked so incredibly hard for decades and decades to secure victories for women and girls in our pursuit of equity in our nation, we know we have to be resolute in our mission to advance equity for all women and girls, even as we must also be focused in doing what we can as an organization and shifting the ways in which we do them. Let me give you a few updates now on what we're up to at your AAUW National Office, in addition to those weekly webinars I mentioned. So the National Conference of College Women Student Leaders. As many of you may have heard, in light of COVID-19 and the coronavirus, AAUW National worked with our fantastic partners at the University of Maryland to postpone NICWSL from this May 2020 until May of 2021. We thank all of you for your ongoing support of our students and know that NICWSL will emerge next year with even more dynamic speakers, workshops, and trainings for this great new generation of women leaders. We hope that we can continue to count on your support to make this transformational opportunity available to college women leaders across our country. Now, as we think about our fellowships and grants, our AAUW fellows and grantees frankly had their academic studies and their worlds turned upside down, just as we all have. They've witnessed their labs being shuttered, courses taken online or completely canceled, and their ability to conduct research at best has been limited. But I'm proud to say that the AAUW Fellowships and Grants staff team has been working continuously and diligently to be responsive to the needs of our current fellows and grantees. And despite the transition to remote work in all of our own homes, In mid-April, we announced the exciting news of awards to a brand new class of 2020 to 2021 AAUW Fellows and Grantees. This is really good news in a time of uncertainty as our mission moves forward together. And as part of our platform of virtual training, I mentioned earlier, we're already starting to interview AAUW fellows and alumni for our equity network, as well as for our member audiences, to learn and hear from them in Zoom webinars too. So you'll continue to hear more from our AAUW fellows and alumni in coming weeks. Now let's talk a little bit about economic security and pay equity, which have been truly hallmarks of our work at AAUW. While we certainly are not conducting any in-person workshops or programs, our work on economic security continues with an expanded focus on our virtual work through WorkSmart Online. AAUW's Nationals program staff delivered a fantastic WorkSmart Online webinar last month, and it had about 500 people participating online. That's far more than what we typically can get in in-person workshops. I'll certainly tell you more about the Equity Network and how we're reaching new audiences later in this program. But let me tell you a little bit more about what we're doing underneath the Coca-Cola grant and in our WorkSmart and StartSmart work. So we're pleased to report that our all-time train number for our salary negotiation programs tops 170,000 people. You can help that number grow. Please continue to promote WorkSmart Online as a free professional development resource people can use right now while staying safe at home. Many of us might be going on TED or using Masterclass or reviewing other multimedia programs right now to strengthen our brains and minds and souls during this uncertain time. You, as a member of AAUW, can send out to your networks an opportunity for working women to learn how to better negotiate their own financial futures through WorkSmart Online. So please do help us continue to promote that number and make it grow by promoting WorkSmart Online. We're also working with current salary negotiation license holders to transition some of those events that we're contractually bound to a virtual format to deliver this important contact to growing audiences. Now, I'll also say about our Coca-Cola relationship. As you know, AAUW National secured a terrific partnership a year and a half ago with Coca-Cola Foundation to really launch our work virtually as well as in person and help us scale up what we're trying to do in salary negotiation. For this second tranche of Coca-Cola Foundation generosity in the form of a grant to AAUW National, part of this new grant has been outreach to HBCUs. Now, HBCUs are historically Black colleges and universities in the United States. And so we're moving steadily forward, even in this uncertain time of the pandemic. And we've already made contact via phone, email, snail mail, and the like with all 107 HBCU campuses and institutions around the nation. And we're developing real inroads for new partnerships and collaborations. This outreach also extends to their student affairs offices, alumni associations, and African American Greek organization. So it really is not just about how we're bringing StartSmart to students or WorkSmart to their faculty and staff, but really the broader institutions of HBCUs as well as with our other college and university partners. And frankly, the outreach is working even in this uncertain time. Many are responding, and we're keeping Coca-Cola updated on our progress too, even as this is all virtual rather than in-person programs. And we'll keep you posted on that. Now, since its first meeting in 1881, AAUW has been a catalyst for change. All of you have been a part of that throughout your membership history with AAUW. And together, through our coordinated and strategic advocacy, we've enacted invaluable legislation at the federal level, state level, regional, and very much local levels. But right now, this administration is repeatedly, I mean truly repeatedly striving and often succeeding in rolling back some of the fundamental rights we've been fighting for and achieving for years. And it's frankly not just the administration. Congress has been largely unsuccessful in enacting any good new policies, and the courts are not only undoing important protections, but they're being packed with judges who are also likely to continue this trend of rolling back fundamental rights for a generation. Now, AAUW refuses to stand still. We're reclaiming our rights and taking action to secure them again. And this work is more important now than ever. That's why you'll see on your screen AAUW's 2020 Gender Policy Agenda, which is really focused on the key issues for this incredibly important election year. We released this blueprint on how we're thinking about our gender agenda before COVID-19 became a pandemic. But I think virtually every issue you see here is still incredibly timely and relevant. The pandemic has opened our eyes, or really brought to the forefront what we already knew, that many Americans experience massive economic insecurity. And we at AAUW are aiming to ensure equity for all. There's lots of ways you can help us in moving this gender policy agenda forward, and I'll tell you more about that now. So first off, it's about grassroots and really a redoubling of our efforts at the grassroots level at AAUW. We've recently made some new hires on our public policy team aimed to do just this. Arm all of you as advocates and members around the country in every congressional district. We've always been all about grassroots. We've been at this for decades. Grassroots are the people power, the constituents of elected officials who join together to advocate in support of a position. You know this already because all of you have been participating in many ways to call your elected or appointed officials, join a lobbying effort at a state level, or the like. And as the constituents of your elected officials, you have immense influence on them. It's because of that elected part. As voters, you're the ones that elect those officials in the roles, and it's your approval via your vote that they get to keep their jobs. So we, all of us, are essentially the bosses, right? So by being a vocal and informed advocate, you can help us shape policy at the federal, state, and local levels. This is a great way for your branch and for your fellow members in your community to stay engaged right now through virtual advocacy. It doesn't have to be in person. There's so much you can do virtually right now. Now, keep in mind that these direct constituent interactions have more influence on lawmakers' decision than any other advocacy strategy. So that means your voice actually has the biggest impact on how they move forward. We know Congress places a high value on groups and citizens who built relationships with the legislator and their staff. So as AAUW has done for many decades, it can be strategic and to do advocacy well and better than others, you'll actually have more influence in this uncertain time. You'll hear more about these efforts through Kate Nielsen, who runs our policy team at AAUW, along with a new grassroots manager and a federal policy manager. And we'll be better utilizing the 2-minute advocate over the next coming weeks so that we too can all come together on the issues that matter most, both during COVID-19 and far beyond as we go into the election cycle this November. Now let's talk a little bit about some of the successful strategies for effective advocacy. One, timing matters, your goals and your strategy. And as a reminder, strategy is something larger, right? That's when we're at about 10,000 feet up. Tactics are those specific actions that help you move the strategy forward. Tactics might be things like writing letters or emails to your elected officials, meeting virtually with lawmakers or giving them a phone call, issuing reports, all of those building blocks of advocacy. But strategy is going to help us have that overall map around that 2020 gender policy agenda I shared with you earlier. And you can also employ more than one tactic at once. Perhaps you might say that you at the local level, at a branch level, or a group of members might come together to write a letter to the editor or an op-ed about an event or call and ask about an issue that matters most around this, whether it's around pay equity or student loan debt or some of those fundamental rights we're seeing eradicated or rolled back in many ways. And throughout the implementation of your advocacy strategy, I want to remind you that even when we're doing all of this virtually, the most important thing here is building relationships, human relationships, where we're both sharing the information of where AAUW's positions are, but also keenly listening to our elected officials as well. Successful relationships are the key to good and strong advocacy. And last, I want to say to you, and this is within your slide as well, this is a marathon, not a sprint. We have seen far too often when we've gone into state legislatures or even at the federal level as well, where we think we're moving the ball forward, and yet then it gets kicked back to our own end zone and we have to start over again. So as we think about this, it is a marathon, and I'll give you one example of Alabama. So you may recall that as we talk about pay equity and the fact that AAUW is co-leading the Paycheck Fairness Act Coalition federally, we've also been working very much with a lot of you on the ground in your states to make sure that new pay equity laws get passed at the state level too. Now, up until this past year, there were 2 states that had never passed any pay equity legislation at all, and they were Alabama and Mississippi. And Alabama, we worked on it for years and years, and finally, just within this last year, Alabama passed its first pay equity law. So again, this isn't about a 100-yard sprint. This is about a marathon. And so be kind to yourself and understand and think about these relationships, strategies, and tactics we can do together to help build a stronger future. Now, I promised you I'd tell you earlier in the presentation a little bit about our brand new Equity Network presentation and ways in which we're trying to engage with new audiences. I'm so excited. This is truly a pilot effort, meaning it's not fully baked. It's in pilot mode on a smaller scale so that we can see what works, what doesn't, and how to move up together. This is a major initiative within AAUW's strategic plan to really reach new audiences in the ways that they wish to be engaged, not the ways that we wish to engage with them. Many of you know, and I've spoken with many of you around the country, we've been trying for decades to try and bring in younger members and haven't succeeded. Even when we have gifted those memberships, they're typically not renewed and the attrition rates are very, very high. So one example too is in the 1980s when we added in men to AAUW membership, allowing men to join AAUW. Even today, they make up less than 2% of our overall membership, even though we broaden them and try to include them, and we love having male allies as a part of AAUW membership. Now, how did the Equity Network come about and what does it mean? Well, we hosted 8 focus groups over about 18 months in 8 different cities, reaching out to men, women, and non-binary gendered people ages 21 to 40 who are in the workforce. Now, the Equity Network pilot came from this work, and it originally was to be a blend of in-person and virtual convenings around professional development, advocacy efforts, inclusion, and equity. But now, because of COVID-19, we've moved everything totally to a virtual platform. I want to remind you too, as we've been talking about reaching out to new audiences and some things we've learned, this is not another membership vehicle. In fact, this complements what we do in membership as almost 2 circles. So AAUW membership is here and is always foundational to who we are, but the Equity Network is a complement in reaching new audiences towards the same goals, the same mission, and the same vision. And it won't be competition to AAUW membership, but again, is really a complement to reach new audiences. So let's talk a little bit more about this. I want to emphasize again, this is about meeting people where they are and how they wish to engage. Some of you have heard me say before that I don't ascribe to the golden rule, I ascribe to the platinum rule. The golden rule is about doing unto others in the ways that you wish to be done unto. The platinum rule is really standing in the other person's shoes and treating them the way that they wish to be treated, not the way you wish to be treated. So we learned in these focus groups with 21 to 40-year-olds that the women involved in these did not want to only sit at a table with women. They wanted men and others at the table to get to real solutions. They frankly did not want to join their mothers' or grandmothers' organizations, and they weren't really interested in membership in the same way, but they are very much devoted to inclusion and equity interests. And want to be a part of projects where they do something and can see action and change. They also want to build their professional development and professional networks to help them continue to succeed in an ever-changing workforce. They also want to focus on intersectionality and full inclusion. This wasn't just about gender, but also about full intersectionality and inclusion. So that's about race and ethnicity, socioeconomic status, class issues, LGBTQIA, and more. And notice the name is the Equity Network. While part of AAUW, it doesn't have the W in it for women in the same way. It really is about our mission, about equity for all. So you might remember the Give a Grad a Gift of AAUW membership. Now, instead of giving membership where we saw so much attrition from those, you can consider giving a donation to encourage folks to become a part of the new network, the Equity Network. Now, how will we see the Equity Network and AAUW membership allied? In many cases, they'll be working on similar issues, and it may be around lobby efforts and advocacy efforts where they might come together. But I want to emphasize, this is really important, that AAUW is only in the pilot phase of this. We've tried reaching younger audiences for years, and we're taking pages out of playbooks that actually work to engage young people, millennials and Generation Z, in ways in which they wish to get involved with AAUW. So stay tuned and we'll continue to give you more information on this. Now, the branch and affiliate 5-star recognition program. I'm sure you're all aware of this fantastic new program that we launched last summer. It's been so inspiring to learn about the incredible initiatives that so many of our branches are launching in their communities to advance equity. I really love this program because I learned so much about the great work happening at a local level, and then it's always great when that great work also inspires others to do something else in another community. Over 60 branches are currently marching towards 5-star recognition, and many branches would love to share the successes, even in this difficult pandemic time, by connecting virtually. And I have a few really exciting announcements here. There are now 3 branches that have actually achieved 5-star status. AAUW Marin in California, AAUW Bellingham in Washington State, and AAUW Northeast Tarrant County in Texas were the first 3 branches to receive 5 stars across the entire country. Congratulations. What a fantastic accomplishment. And I know we're going to see those numbers continue to rise. Of course, during COVID-19, we recognize that branches will need to be and continue to be really creative to achieve their stars. And we at the national office in turn are going to be immensely flexible on this because we know these are truly, truly uncertain times. So for example, programming can take place online. You can have a forum or a speaker panel and hold it on Zoom on a particular issue. You can host a virtual dinner party, have all of your friends in AAUW come together and cook the same meal, but in the safety of our own homes. You could even make it a fundraiser if you wanted around your branch activities and to support AAUW National. Or recently, a colleague told us about a pour it forward as opposed to pay it forward. And you could do a wine tasting online as another fundraiser by pouring it forward together on Zoom. We're so pleased that branches are getting this terrific visibility in their communities through the 5-star recognition program. If you need more information about how you or your branch can participate more fully, feel free to contact the team at 5-star, that's FIVESTAR at aauw.org, or just simply contact the Connect team at connect@aauw.org. Now, if you've been on any of the national webinars or attended a state convention in the past 2 years, you've heard us talk a lot about the need for financial sustainability. Within the organization's strategic plan, we have 3 major mission focus areas: education and training, economic security, and leadership. But the 4th area of focus in the strategic plan is governance and sustainability. When AAUW was created in 1881, it was a different time. When AAUW continued to rise in the mid-20th century, it was a different time. As we came into the 21st century, times changed yet again. We saw the financial crisis in 2008, and now this truly, truly challenging time during COVID-19. So let's talk a little bit about what this means. When you give your dues or a gift to AUW, we know you're entrusting us with the responsibility to use it wisely. And I want to be clear with you that the coronavirus and this current pandemic does not change that at all. The nonprofit sector is frankly reeling from this crisis. And of course, we're all concerned about the financial sustainability today and tomorrow for AAUW. Branches and members across the country have been so incredibly generous for years and years to give to AAUW National. And we continue to be incredibly grateful for your kind and generous support. And we now have a new national board and national leader matching gift program that was announced in the past week. So you can also participate by contributing now and get your dollars matched. Now, I know many of you have been forced to cancel or postpone your fundraising events for AAUW in your communities. I am hoping, however, that you can consider conducting special fundraising events online. Like the examples I just gave you, you can organize a panel event on equity with local experts. You could start a Facebook fundraiser for your branch that highlights how women are adversely affected during the COVID-19 pandemic. You can also put something together around our fight for paid leave, for voting rights, equal pay, and voter access. Our work today, even during this crazy, crazy time, is more relevant and timely now. We must not give up the fight for women and girls when so many women and girls are struggling in our nation today. These definitely are not normal times. We all know that. Much of what we are focused on now is survival and attracting new audiences to our mission so that AAUW will not only thrive today, but long into the future. How well AAUW's mission resonates with new audiences may be one of the real silver linings of this pandemic. Those equity network programs that I mentioned to you before, we're seeing 100, 200, 400, 500 people participating in inclusion and equity programs or professional development ones online. Truly, truly inspiring. But I do want to say that AAUW uses greatest needs support. So that's unrestricted support to AAUW. And we're raising it to help us follow through on our crucial mission today and keep the organization going forward. That's why we urgently need more greatest needs support right now. Imagine we're all working from home and sheltering in place, but again, we still have to pay for our office. We still have rent and insurance and all of those other expenses that continue to move forward even as we're in this unprecedented time. I should also note that much of the corporate support that we were counting on this year has dried up or is on hold because so many industries and sectors have been hit hard by COVID-19. Many are even considering holding back on their giving, and we understand that. Nonprofits like AAUW rely on philanthropy just to continue operating. We'll continue to offer robust new online programming to strengthen and connect everyone in the AAUW community, both members and new audiences. And we're going to help to keep our staff motivated and moving forward. But you too can help on this. We still have so many needs and interests to make sure we can fulfill our mission for AAUW. And while so many nonprofits are anticipating at least 50% cuts in philanthropy, that is an issue for us, but also an opportunity for us. So we hope you'll join us in considering donating whatever you can to AAUW right now or in the near future. Because our endowment is totally restricted to fellowships and grants, it cannot support the underpinnings of all of what we're trying to do at AAUW and all of our staff and work. So think about our brand new website, all of our policy and advocacy work, our research, our programs, etc. That's why support right now to this generous match from your national board and national leaders for Greatest Needs funding is so urgent. Frankly, Greatest Needs is our emergency fund in more ways than one. Given the myriad issues impacting women and girls right now, we know that AAUW could be doing even more. Every crisis is really an opportunity, but we can only succeed together with the support of our friends, advocates, and members who could be in a position to step up and help. So in this time, we know that part-time workers are predominantly women. We know that healthcare workers, women make up about 3/4 of healthcare workers, almost 80% of the nation. We know that women are on the front lines in low-wage positions, now considered essential workers, which is a title they very much deserve. And in this pandemic, AAUW matters. Please consider giving. And thank you in advance for whatever you can do during this time. With your continued commitment to our critical mission and work, I know we're all going to get through this together. Eleanor Roosevelt once wisely said, "You must do the things you think you cannot do." We know and truly understand from the bottom of our hearts and in our souls how difficult this time is for everyone during this extraordinary pandemic and what it's causing economically in our nation and around the world. We must ensure we create the programs, policies, and practices to protect women in low-wage work, in part-time work, in healthcare roles, and in every role. But even in COVID-19 and even in these uncertain times, we have to continue together to move forward in our mission. We must close the ambition gap, allowing women to pursue any and every role they wish, including President of the United States. We must continue to check our own unconscious biases. And that means all of us as AAUW members too, not just men. And that means by checking that, we ensure women and girls can thrive in every part of our society. That's why you aiding us in our gender policy agenda we talked about early and in efforts to get out the vote are so very important. Now, next year, AAUW will turn 140. What can we audaciously imagine in 10 years to accomplish together? What about in 20 years or another 100 years? For my daughter and for all of the girls in our nation and on this planet, I want a limitless future for them. At AAUW, I know we can do it. Together, we can achieve that vision. Thank you so much. Please stay connected with us, and I hope to hear from you soon.